Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this edition of Senior Living Options in Charlotte. I'm Rob Wachter with the Wachter Group at J-Park Carolina Living Real Estate, and we are here today to introduce you to a new and slightly different type of senior living option than what we've talked about in our earlier installments. We are here today at Senior Retreat. We are going to be touring this community, this home, and talking to its owner and founder, and giving you a little bit of information on what a family care home is today. So again, I'm Rob Wachter, and I'm here with Elizabeth Willis, my partner and seniors real estate specialist, and Phil Koch of Senior Retreat. Phil, thanks for inviting us to your home today, and we'd love to hear a little bit about Senior Retreat and what it is. And before I do that, I want to remind our viewers that through this broadcast, if you have any questions, if you'd like to have us answer anything, or you'd like any additional information sent to you, just put a comment in the comments, and we will get to you with the answer to that question at the end of this broadcast. If you're watching this on a recording, feel free to do the same thing. We'll get back to you with that answer. So, Phil, thanks for inviting us today, and tell us a little bit about Senior Retreat.
Yeah, glad to. Rob, it's good to have you. Rob and I have been friends in the industry for many years now, so it's good to welcome you to a house that you're all too familiar with, which is a different story. But this is a family care home, and my company is called Senior Retreat, and Senior Retreat is a group of 3 licensed family care homes that operate in South Charlotte in very, very nice neighborhoods. No signs out front, yet it's a licensed retirement community, licensed by the state of North Carolina and audited and monitored by county and state reps, just like any normal retirement community is. And I think leading into that very thing is a lot of people say, what is a family care home, and how is that a distinction between a normal assisted living, memory care, and other retirement options? And because I get that a lot, even for people that are in the industry. So for those of you who are curious, basically, family care homes are very common throughout the United States. Some states, they're more common than others. North Carolina, they passed it into law. Each state has to do it about 24 years ago. And initially, I think the concept was it would be more rural, so that people, if economically it wouldn't make sense to have a large or even medium-sized assisted living memory care, they could have a smaller family care home that could make sense to be in a smaller environment, smaller rural area. But it really has blossomed and grown now to not just rural areas, and many of them in rural areas because of the they accept Medicaid, or some don't, or some are VA funded, or a combination thereof. To the one we're going to look at today is just a different market niche. We really buy upfit houses like the one you're going to see today in nice neighborhoods, and it's a just different option for families to potentially place, or seniors to live in, as opposed to a medium to larger size retirement community. And they are
like a little homier and a little less institutional.
Exactly, that's the concept. We don't even have signs out front, as you'll see. And most people that live in this neighborhood and the other neighborhoods that we operate in will drive by the house and never know, ever, maybe, that it's a licensed retirement community. And that is our goal. We want the seniors to feel comfortable and think that this truly is their house that they're living in. It's a smaller niche boutique style of retirement communities. And in the state of North Carolina, every state, when they pass it into law, determines what's the maximum number of residents you can have in a particular community. And in family care homes in North Carolina, 6 is the max. So, for example, in this house, we have 6 residents, and it works out really well. They get to know each other really well. We don't have much turnover in staff. And there's less anxiety and stress because of less turnover and more personal care.
Absolutely, and I can testify to the fact that you just use homes in the existing communities and you're not building anything special. Phil mentioned that I have intimate knowledge of the house that we're touring today, and a funny story, my mother-in-law used to live in this very house, and in fact in 2010, I believe, I sold the house when she moved out into a retirement community, and the person that bought it from her ended up selling it to to fill in Senior Retreat. But a lot of things have changed since my mother-in-law lived here, so it's kind of a fun, nostalgic visit for me today. So, Phil, would you have a couple minutes to take us on a tour?
Sure, be glad to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think as we do this, we need to mask up, right?
We
'Cause
do.
We're
We're
outside now on a screen porch, but we want to make sure that we protect your residents to the fullest extent.
That's right. Right now, it's the closing end of the pandemic, but we still abide by strict state laws, which is mask worn by everybody inside retirement communities, other than residents that have been given both vaccinations or one vaccination, all of which all of our residents have received in all of our buildings. Mm-hmm. So the residents you'll see as we tour, if you see any, will not have masks on, but our workers, and we will have to. Mm-hmm. So here we go.
Excellent. So tell us where we are.
This is our main dining room. And I think back in the day, this used to be a screened-in porch. But when we bought the house, it was already enclosed. But we raised the roof a little bit and made it really our main dining room. It gets a lot of sun in here, as you can see. And it leads off to the beautiful screened-in porch that we just came from, which is a great sitting area and a great meeting area for both residents and their families. Mm-hmm. So this is one of two dining areas, and in the kitchen we have another smaller one.
And I notice it's intimate, it's family looking.
Yeah. Right? I mean, we decorate, the families or the residents are intricately involved in holiday dressing up for Halloween or Christmas or Hanukkah. Family members can even come into the house and cook a meal in the house, which you could never do at a larger community or even medium size because of liability reasons.
Absolutely.
But in our location, we can do that. So,
absolutely. Well, I know that we're not going to get to tour specific bedrooms today, maybe one, because obviously people are living in them. But I noticed that what I believe was the master suite is down this hall.
That's right.
Is there anything special about having a large bedroom like that? Is there a unique feature?
Yes. In this particular house, sometimes in other houses, a large master bedroom, which by the state is designated as 2 occupancy residents can live in there. We will have 2 women or 2 men, but in some cases we have a married couple. So in this particular house, we have a married couple that's been living in there for quite a while, and it works out great. They can both live together, even though their levels are a little bit different, whereas in a medium to a larger community might not be allowed.
Might be in separate buildings, if not separate communities altogether, right?
But it's great because here they're together and come out and do activities together and have meals together. It works out really well.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay.
So here's the kitchen. I mean, just like another house, we have a pantry in here. We have a laundry room in here, which also, by the way, leads out to another emergency handicap ramp outside the back door. And a garage, which frankly we don't really use other than for storage. This kitchen is brand new appliances. When we bought and upgraded it, beautiful countertops. And as you'll see throughout the house, we have, beautiful blinds, or I should say, what do you call them?
Plantation shutters?
Plantation shutters, thank you. Sure. Throughout the house. And we even have flower pots, hanging flower baskets right outside of most of the windows. But new kitchen, gas stove, and here's another sitting area in case they want to just have coffee or a light breakfast. Or they can even have it in their room if they so wanted to. So we cater to a very few residents, and we are able to spend a lot more quality time. As we talked about just yesterday, the average ratio of caregivers or residents to caregivers in a normal environment, a retirement community, is 18-1 nationally. In our houses, even at 2 in the morning, it's 6-1. But like right now, it's 3-1 because we have 2 caregivers on staff for 6 residents. So that's a big difference.
Fantastic. So who does the cooking in this kitchen?
The caregivers do. Okay. And we work with a licensed dietitian, nutritionist group. Same thing with a licensed activity director. So we're able to really scrutinize and specify the diet as well as the activities according to the wants, the likes and dislikes of the specific individuals. Yeah, it works out really well. If nobody likes broccoli, we're not going to have broccoli in the house. Nobody likes bingo, we're not going to do bingo, but we can cater it towards really what they want, and it works out well. And we can do up to 9 specific diets, like mechanical soft or diabetic or puree or whatever it may be. And we do quite a bit of it, actually. So here's the kitchen.
Thanks for clearing that up. And I have heard some beeping and some chiming. So
oh, sorry. Yes.
No, that's just for a minute. That's actually designed to help protect residents and staff, right? There's when doors are open, things chime.
Yes, that is actually a state law, and our system is even louder. So basically, anytime a door opens leading outside anywhere in the house, the chimes will continue to go off until a caregiver or myself, if I'm in the building, key in a 4-digit code, which can change. That enables the caregivers, the staff, and even family, if they're visiting, to be aware of the fact if somebody, for whatever reason, would try to leave the building, even though that is very, very rare, extremely rare. Usually they're very happy here. You know, sometimes with dementia, in some cases, there could be some confusion, but usually we're redirecting if that ever happens. It's very rare, but by state code, you got to have it in place.
Sure, and the doors are not locked, though,
no,
right?
They're not locked.
So people can come and go. It's just the caregivers are there to support, and because it's a small environment,
right?
Those things become evident quickly, and it becomes a smaller issue than it might be.
Actually, at night, we do lock the doors for outsiders coming in.
Of course.
But there at never time, it's again another state code where you can't lock the door from somebody leaving. So because of fire hazards. And on that note of fire, if I may point out, if you could look up straight up here, there's a little cap, fire here. So this is not required by law, but we've installed in all of our buildings a full 13D fire sprinkler alarm system. That enables us to be considered what's called non-ambulatory. Not that anybody in the houses are non-ambulatory right now, but if they were passing over time and aging in place, they could literally pass, and quite oftentimes, you know, they do. It is the business that we're in, and be fully non-ambulatory, bed-bound, if it ever came to it, and never have to leave the building. So most people that come into our communities, you know, will oftentimes is the last step, unless they have to go to a hospital or a short-term rehab stay.
And I bet that improves their quality of life during that time, too.
It does. It does. I think this smaller environment, especially with people with dementia or need extra help, they get more care because of the better ratio of caregiver to residents. But also, it feels more like home, and there's less stress and anxiety.
I would imagine the caregivers get to know the residents better and more intimately as well.
They do. Little things like we take for granted, you know, is the person left-handed? Did they have a lazy right eye? Do they like orange juice as opposed to pineapple? I'm not saying that doesn't happen in medium to large communities, but with 18-to-1 ratio, it's harder to do.
Certainly.
Whereas for us, it's very common. They get to know them really well. So here is the den, and this den is beautiful. Gas fireplace, about a 55, 60-inch TV. All of our furniture that you'll see that's upholstered, even the chairs and the dining room table, the rooms, everywhere, all handmade, custom-made, specifically for senior care. And it costs more money, but they're firmer. They're a little bit higher, comfortable, but firmer, so people can get in and out of the furniture easier. And they also have what's called Krypton fabric, which repels fluid as much as possible in case of an accident or something like that.
But then again, they look like the furniture that would be in your home.
They're about 45 to 50% more expensive than a normal couch or chair. But it's well worth it.
Not surprising.
Well worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, they look almost brand new.
Thank you. And these are lift chairs, by the way. So if you see,
So if someone needs some assistance getting
press
up,
the button and it lifts, and it
chair
literally
helps.
lift the chair up so that the person gets easier in and out of their walker or even wheelchair. So in here is a living room, and also chairs, another sitting area. We also have a gas fireplace and a TV. Gets a lot of light, leads out to the front of the house. It's really nice. And Joe's been kind enough to let us see his room real quick.
Excellent. So what are the favorite shows that are on in most of the time
Sports.
here?
Sports is popular. I know some of the cooking shows are popular. We've shown Andy Griffith. It just depends on who's in the house at any given time. I know that in our particular house here, we have a couple gentlemen, and sports is very popular, which I don't mind at all. Thanks, Joe. All right, let's take a look. So this is a small example of one of the rooms where we have a bed, we have a chair, we have some furniture that are owned by us, and then what's nice about family care homes, they can mix and match. So if they want to bring in personal belongings, which Joe has been able to do, they do so and can match it with their own furniture. They don't have to bring any furniture in at all. We can completely furnish the room. But they have that option, and there's no extra charge by us, whether they use our furniture or use their own or mix and match between ours and somebody else's.
So they get to feel like they're in the home that they might be used to.
Exactly. I mean, often we used to put all the furniture in all the bedrooms in the first house, and we learned that at least half the people say, I want my own furniture, because it just depends on what they want, because there's emotional attachments to furniture.
Of course.
And there's a long history in it. And part of becoming a home to them is having their possessions with the history and the backgrounds and the memories in that room with them. So we can accommodate either one.
That's terrific. Makes sense.
So we will head over here.
So are the fireplaces functioning? And in the winter, do you have fires?
Yes, we have gas fireplaces, gas logs. We don't actually have burning logs, but gas logs.
Sense.
And it works out really well. It's a nice house. This particular house has almost exclusively hardwood floors. So the hardwood floors you'll see we polished up and stained a little darker color, and it's throughout the entire house, which is really nice. It's easier to clean, but this is also easier on the feet. In retirement communities, you're not allowed to have area rugs. It's against state code because there's more chance of a slippage. But the hardwood floors really work well. And I think they look good too, personally.
And it prevents thresholds.
Yes. Yes. No thresholds. If there is a threshold, like we have one in another house, a very, very small one, we minimize it, and then we'll put fluorescent tape just to show to them that they're about to step on something that, now we're talking about a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch or something like that. But if I may, I'll show up here our state license, my state license as an administrator, and here's a typical keypad that we have in all the houses. So when the door is open, and I'll show you. Sorry, I have to go too fast. So we key in. And it stops the chiming. And somebody has to do that or it'll continue to chime, and that's on purpose. So
And this must be the station where everybody checks in for their COVID screenings?
that's right. Every person that enters the house currently during COVID, even with thank God, the reduction in cases, has to fill out a COVID attestation form and get their temperature checked, which goes on the form itself. And we log that and show it to state and county monitors when they come in to check us. Okay? Hey, ladies, we're going to show the nursing station. These are two of our best caregivers, Lanita and Tanya.
Hello, ladies.
And this is a nursing station, but also acts as our office. So in this particular room, we keep all the record keeping that we need for state and county audits, our resident charts, our personnel charts. In here is where the basics of our fire alarm sprinkler system is. And usually our med card is here right now, but it's out on the floor being used. So we keep it double locked, both the med card itself, which is state law, but also the room itself, in case of, make sure that nobody gets in it.
Sure. When you say med cart, so I'm assuming that means that these nice ladies and some of your staff are qualified to dispense medication. So the level of care here is not just simply helping you up and down out of your table and chair.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that is, for example, for years, 14 years, I owned one of the largest home care agencies in Charlotte. Great company, and there's great services out there that can send caregivers into residential homes, personal homes, and provide care, or even in retirement communities. As great as they are, CNAs, just CNAs, are not allowed to dispense medicine at all.
And the CNA is a certified nursing assistant?
That's right, certified nursing assistant. But in our homes, we hire both CNAs, but dual licensed caregivers. They're both CNAs, certified nursing assistants, that can do the personal care, but they're also what's called a med aid or med tech, and they can dispense medicine and is licensed by law. In fact, we're required to have that around the clock. So even if at 2 o'clock in the morning somebody wakes up, they can get their medicine.
Perfect. That must be real peace of mind, knowing that people may not have to spend as much time in the hospital or in rehab, maybe if they had an illness.
Yes.
You notice that?
Yes, it is true. It gives them options. You know, a family care home is not for every single person out there, just like a memory care or assisted living or other type of communities. It's another choice that's out there. But I feel, having been in the business for almost 20 years, that it's a great option to be looked at. And I just, one of the things about what we're doing today is to get the message out that these things exist. Not only around the state, but really nice ones in really nice neighborhoods that anybody would be proud and glad to have their mother, father, or spouse in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll come in here. There's 3 more bedrooms, private bedrooms, that are currently occupied. They're taking an afternoon siesta. They just had their lunch earlier, so we're not going to show those because they're in their rooms right
No,
now.
and of course I've been in each of these rooms,
Yeah.
having been in this house before, and what strikes me is how much these are just simply bedrooms in a house.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure they've been upfitted and made safe, but I would imagine that the people living there feel like they're in a bedroom in their home rather than in an institution.
It's true. I mean, really, the biggest work we do, other than the fire sprinkler system, is bathroom work. So all the bathroom garden tubs that we all take for granted, well, that doesn't really work as well for seniors. It's not a state code we have to take them out, but every house we've ever entered, we always take garden tubs out. We put in either wheelchair accessible, complete flush to the ground showers, or extremely low lip. So all bathroom work, that's the first thing that was done. In some cases, we even added full bathrooms. Also, the doors, which normally would be 30 inches, in this house, almost all the doors are 36 inches. It just makes it easier for a senior to get in and out, whether or not they ever need a wheelchair or not. And again, because of our sprinkler system and our non-ambulatory status, if anybody needed to be in a wheelchair, they can do that in any of our buildings. And that makes a big difference.
Well, great. Well, it looks like we're coming back to the beginning of the tour, so we're going to come out onto the screen porch, which I'm assuming that residents can enjoy some time on the screen porch.
Yes, I think it's one of the biggest attractions to this particular house, although all of our houses have screen-in porches. One has a pergola, and this particular house, I think it's a stunning screen-in porch. It's a big seller for families when they look at it. We have 2/3 of an acre on this property, and the backyard is professionally manicured and taken care of. We have a landscaping company that handles all of our houses, and they love to sit out here.
Fantastic job.
Thank you. And they like to have their meals or have residents, families come in and visit them, and oftentimes you'll see them out here on the back porch watching the squirrels and the deer ramble through our yard.
Great. So we have another guest that has joined us that I'd like to introduce. And we invite other partners that we work with on a regular basis to join us on these broadcasts because we want to get the word out and share information about some other companies. So today we are being joined by Carol Connors with 65 Senior Street. And I would like to invite Carol. First of all, thanks for joining us today, Carol. And I'd like to invite Carol to tell us a little bit about what 65 Senior Street is.
Great. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. It's good to see you, Phil. So my company is 65 Senior Street, and I started it about 8 years ago because there was something missing in the market for having somebody in person who knew the ins and outs of senior living and other healthcare aspects, who would be able to meet in person with somebody and sit down and really get a feel for what they needed, what their options might be, and help them in person through the process. There were internet searches and there were things done remotely by phone, but there were very few with my type of experience to be able to walk you hand in hand through the entire process. So I help people find any kind of senior living, independent living, assisted living, or memory care. And I also help them with resources in the area, exercise programs, daycares, nursing homes, Parkinson's Association and Alzheimer's Association, and other groups that can help them through whatever disease process and help them figure out the best way to stay healthy, be informed, and find some options for support financially and in person.
Great. So you mentioned internet searches. I know sometimes people don't know how to find companies like yours. So are you one of the companies that has a big website, and when you put your name in, you go into this queue and you talk to someone in a foreign country to, get connected with you? Or
Not at all. It is when you go to my website and you call that number there, you get me. So you'll speak with me in person. And if you email that, I'm responding to the emails that are on site. So my email and my website is Charlotte specific, the greater Charlotte area, so Indian Land, Gastonia, Matthews, Union County, Huntersville area, etc. But you always have me to talk to. So.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks,
All right.
Rob. It's good to see you, Phil.
So we're winding down today, and when we get to this point in our broadcast, we'd like to remind everybody that if any questions have come up here, go ahead and type them in the comments, and we're going to try to answer them right now. And if you're watching this on a recording, again, do the same thing. Type those messages in there. We'll get notified, and we'll get back to you with that answer or the additional information that you're looking for. So for the moment, we're going to take just a minute and see, do we have any questions that have come in from the audience, Elizabeth?
We sure do. So the first question that we had was from Molly, and she asked, do you hire your own caregivers? And this is directed to you, Phil.
Yep. Oh, thank you. Yes, we do. I owned, and Carol and I go back 16 years, 15 years. We've known each other in the industry for many years, as Rob in the industry. But I owned a large home care agency with a couple hundred employees, so we really cherry-picked the best of the caregivers to come into our houses. And they're direct employees. We take taxes out. We have full insurance on all of our employees. So anybody that you see operating or working in our houses are direct employees, yes. Good
Great.
question.
That is a great question. Some others that we got in were also for you. Do you accept residents from both states, so North Carolina and South Carolina?
Yes. As most of the people viewing today, Charlotte is right on the edge of the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. In fact, me personally, I live in South Carolina. I think you do too. It's amazing how often, there's differences in state laws in retirement communities, some subtle differences. But anybody that lives in South Carolina can move into our communities from any state. A state line is not prohibiting somebody from moving into a retirement community in either state. Now, there's other situations that may or may not come into play. Anywhere in South Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, and move into our retirement community. You don't have to be in North Carolina.
Awesome. That makes sense. Next question was, and just touch on this to the best of your ability or however you see fit. Differences between different payment sources and what all is accepted. I know you just kind of touched on this for the private pay. Can you dive just a little bit deeper into what that means for maybe families looking into your care homes?
Yeah, I will. And so first of all, once in a while you'll still get the question, does Medicare pay for this? Which, by the way, let's clarify the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare, nowhere in the United States does Medicare pay for retirement communities. And we still get those questions. I'm sure Carol does too.
It's a health care benefit, not a living benefit.
Exactly. Now, Medicaid, which is income-based, and there are other requirements involved, and Carol would know much more about this than even I do, oftentimes some communities accepts Medicaid. We personally do not accept Medicaid funding as a payment source for the seniors that move into our houses. There are some, and more out in the county, because the larger the populated cities, and just from my own opinion, the housing and the construction is more expensive. But it's the decision of the management and the ownership of that particular building. We don't accept Medicaid. We accept private pay, and we accept long-term care insurance, which pays for almost all retirement options out there to the maximum it can per day or per month, which all long-term care policies have.
Perfect. And we had some questions for Carol, so I want to pass the mic. Why would somebody need to use basically a senior living advisor like you?
Well, people come to me when it's time to start the search, or they've started the search and everything's gotten confusing. So you don't realize until you start searching how many different options there are, how they vary in the different levels. So there may be 15 assisted livings and they all handle care a little bit differently. They all have different policies. There are state regulations that differ. Their populations differ depending on the community, the people that they have as residents at that time. So their staffing differs. There are a lot of differences in any kind of level of assisted living or memory care or independent living. So the different services, also payer sources, understanding the differences between Medicare and Medicaid. Some people come in and they've done Medicaid planning and they think that Medicaid is going to cover all of this, and they don't realize very few communities take Medicaid, and the only ones that would take Medicaid in their income bracket would be skilled nursing. And if you don't have a skilled nursing need, you don't have any resources. So there are a lot of things to take a look at and drill down, and then for somebody to take a look at that person's individual needs, because if you talk to 3 different family members, you might get 3 different versions of what the need is. One person thinks they're very dependent, others people think they're very independent, and that person who needs the care has another view all their own. So sitting down with everybody and getting an accurate idea of what they're like now and what they need and what they will likely need in the future is a good way to get started on the right path so that you're not making mistakes.
So pretty early in the process is still a great time to get connected to you.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is to wait until the emergency happens to move or to do the research. Once that person is having anxiety and other issues or mobility issues, falling issues, things like that, it's a lot harder to find a place that is able and willing to accept them. You want to get somebody in there while they can still form those relationships, while the staff can get to know them, and while they can access the amenities. And you should, in most cases, see an improvement cognitively and physically in their health when you do that.
That's a great point.
I just want to dovetail on that for a second, because we run into that same kind of question. When should someone call their realtor? When should they find out? You know, we find a lot of people call us at the very last minute when they've made a decision to move somewhere, and then they're surprised at the amount of work that might be going into selling their house. They might not be prepared for the amount of money that they're going to get for selling their house. Sometimes they find out that they might not be able to afford the care that they expected. Sometimes they find out they can afford better care than they thought they could. So, you know, I am very big on exactly that. The minute you're beginning to think about something, call us and talk to us about what your options might be, because we can point you down the path so you have the right options and information to make an informed choice when that time comes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I think, too, just to piggyback on that, Rob, one of the great things about you is that you have relationships with people like Elder Life and other sources that can offer the bridge loan. So if you don't have the money or you're not in a position to sell the house right now, you can get monthly increments of a loan. And it's a complicated process, but some people specialize in it, and I know Rob is an expert in that.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'll go ahead and go deep into that for just a moment. Our team, the Wachter Group, is Elder Life Financial, is a partner, preferred partner with Elder Life Financial. What Elder Life Financial does is, in a matter of 48 hours, allows you to access the equity in your home to make a move into a community, whether that be independent living, assisted living, family care, skilled nursing. And those funds can pay for your cost at those communities for up to 6 months. And depending on the equity position in your home, you may be able to borrow out some money to help clean out the house, get it ready for sale. And in most cases, that can really net tens of thousands of dollars more for a family in transition than if they just suddenly rushed or, God forbid, got one of those letters in the mail that says, we'll buy your house for cash in 10 days, only to find out that we could sell it for 25% more than that in only 30. So, Carol, thank you for bringing that up. Elizabeth, what other questions do we have?
So Amy was curious, and this is directed to you, Phil. Do the residents choose the pharmacy of their choice, or do you choose that for them?
That's a good point, or that's a good question, because sometimes under the right circumstances, we can work with an existing pharmacy to bring items in. But frankly, most people, and there's another service that I'll mention tailing on to this question, where they usually end up going with services that we don't offer, but we have a partnership with. We get no financial benefit out of it, but our particular pharmacy, for example, is Cannon Pharmacy. I think they have 7 locations throughout the region, one specifying just for long-term care retirement communities like ours and larger ones. So they are able to deliver 6 days a week, and out of convenience, most of our families will sign up for that because the medicine is shrink-wrapped. They are connected to the QuickMar computerized distribution system that we utilize, as they do, for distribution of meds that can be tracked and monitored by county and state authorities and myself as a licensed administrator. But another service on that note is we also have a visiting PA group. So those interested viewers today that was thinking about bringing somebody into the family care home, not only do we have a pharmacy already lined up you could utilize via Canon, we also have a visiting PA group, which again we get nothing out of, but it's very convenient, frankly, and you can use that service, or you may not if you don't want to. Most people end up signing up with it because it enables a PA, physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner, NP, to come into the house once or twice a month and check on those residents, sometimes at the behest of us. We'll say, Mrs. Jones has dropped some weight recently, or there's a contusion that she may need to be checked out on. And instead of bringing her to Mrs. Jones or whoever the person might be into a specialist, a nurse practitioner or a PA, visiting PA group, can look at it and make some decisions and even write prescriptions. So oftentimes if there's a change of prescriptions, if they sign up with the visiting PA group, you can use your own primary physician or specialty physicians, but it can often be handled by a visiting PA group that we have.
That definitely sounds convenient, so that's great. Next question we had was also for you, Phil. Well, actually, you might both be able to touch on this a little bit, but what's the general cost to live here in particular, your homes in particular, and then if you want to dive any deeper on general costs?
I think retirement community is really broken up into many different categories, which would be a podcast all by itself, but independent living, assisted living, memory care, family care home would be in that same kind of grouping, so to speak. Then you have skilled nursing facility, okay? And then you have what's called a CCRC, which sometimes encapsulates many, if not all of those type communities on one campus. Our particular community, we are private pay, and our range currently, which changes, frankly, is anywhere from $6,300 a month to about $7,600 a month, all in. So when I say that, people ask me, what does that mean? That means food, laundry, housekeeping, meal preparation, med dispensement, personal care. Some communities are all in like we are, a monthly price or monthly rent, and some have what's called tier pricing. We find it easier for the families as well as, frankly, for us to have a set fee to charge everybody so that they know what they're getting. So the price range is according to the room that they select and the assessment that we do prior to move-in. But they know what they're going to pay every month, and we find that helps them as well as helps us. I think Carol can speak more about costs in other areas and other type of communities.
Sure. Right now is different than it's been in the past 20 years. So you have an explosion of senior living, and they can run anywhere from in independent living, where you might not have much in the way of services or amenities, starting at $1,200 a month, to communities that offer indoor pools and spas and masseuses and bars and things like that, and that'll go to about $6,500 a month. The things that dictate in any level are the size of the apartment and the number of people in there. Assisted living, again, will range anywhere from about $3,000 a month for a shared room, all the way up to $8,000, $9,000 a month if you have a large 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom and you need a lot of assistance, hands-on assistance with everything. And then memory care bumps a little bit higher than that. That's the highest tier. Some do all-inclusive, and some you pay based on the level of care that you have. North Carolina, again, handles a higher level of care, so their prices tend to run a little bit higher.
And the location.
Location, real estate, although surprisingly South Charlotte is very competitive with some of the others because there's a lot of competition here. And so you do have that.
Looks like that's all the questions we have as of now. Again, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments. We're happy to answer them after.
Well, I just want to wrap up today by saying thank you to Carol and to Phil. Thank you for inviting us into this house, giving me a little nostalgia tour, and sharing with us some information about family care homes. If you have a family member, or if you are someone considering what care options are available, please put your information in the comments or reach out to us. Our information is right on our Facebook page for what you're watching. If you are watching this on YouTube or a rebroadcast, you can call us at 704-787-1969. Extension 5 is Senior Services, and we'd be more than happy to talk with you specifically about what options might be available to you. In addition to the Elder Life financial benefits we mentioned earlier, we have a special that if you are watching this broadcast and you make a move into a community, that we will provide $1,000 credit towards your moving expenses for movers, packers, cleaners, whatever other things you might need while making a move. We want to show our commitment to helping make the moving process less stressful and more cost effective. So again, thanks for joining us today. Join us again next month on Senior Living Options in Charlotte. I'm Rob Wachter, been here with Elizabeth Willis, Phil Koch, and Carol Connors. You have a great day.